very much, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick note before I get to my questions. Fentanyl seizures are down 30% compared to last year, and that data is coming from the Customs and Border Patrol, CBP. I don't make it up, but fentanyl seizures are down. At your confirmation hearing, you asserted that you will do everything in your power to prevent illegal gun runners in our country. Your budget request for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, proposes a cut of 26% below the current level. How can you justify such a massive cut without inevitably weakening ATF's ability to help our state and local law enforcement fight illegal gun trafficking? How many ATF law enforcement officers and industry operations investigators do you anticipate will be lost to attrition as a result of this funding reduction you're proposing?
So, I'm a career prosecutor, and I believe in keeping America safe, making America safe. First, what we're doing is ATF is going to be brought over with DEA. Everyone knows, everyone sitting up here, guns and drugs go together. They go together. We're going to make it more efficient. What I will tell you will not be happening is ATF agents will not be knocking on the doors of legal gun owners in the middle of the night asking them about their guns. They're going to be out on the streets. If I can finish, they're going to be out on the streets.
I have three
No,
minutes.
You asked me a question.
I did, and
you asked me a question.
and you
and I'm
haven't
gonna
answered
answer
my
it.
question.
So they're going to be out on the streets working
You haven't
hand in hand
answered my
with
question.
DEA
You
to
haven't
violate.
answered. Mr. Chairman, I'd like an answer to my question. And the question is not being answered. How many ATF law enforcement officers and industry operations investigators do you anticipate will be lost to attrition as a result of the funding reduction you are proposing? You are proposing a 26% cut to ATF for fiscal year 2026, as well as a 4.4% cut to DEA. So you're going to merge the two agencies together, and then you're going to shortchange their resources, so neither one of them will be able to do the job that they have been designed to do. You've got a 34% cut to the high-intensity drug trafficking areas program, no dedicated money at all for the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. So, my view, it's fair to say that the Trump administration proposal shortchanges federal efforts to stop illegal gun trafficking and federal efforts to stop the flow of dangerous illegal drugs like fentanyl.
As I was attempting to answer your question very calmly, unlike you,
Excuse me,
what I was
Madam
saying,
Attorney General. Answer yes or no. Tell me what the numbers are. I don't want to hear all of your filibuster about this. Go ahead, please. Tell us the numbers.
So we are reorganizing. ATF agents want to be out on the street.
Okay,
working
let me
with
answer the
DEA
question for you.
agents.
I'm going to answer it for you. Page, Mr. Chairman, you give me a certain amount of time, and I have a high respect for you, but I don't have to listen, nor do my colleagues have to listen to a filibuster when it's a simple question. But I have an answer to your question. It's page 146 of the department's fiscal year 2026 budget, and the performance summary explicitly says, and let me quote, ATF will eliminate 541 industry operation investigators, reducing ATF's capacity to regulate the firearms and explosive industries by approximately 40% in fiscal year 2026. ATF will perform fewer regulatory inspections. And the department summary goes on to say, and let me quote, ATF anticipates a reduction of approximately 284 support personnel and 186 agents based on historical attrition patterns, and these personnel cuts will impact ATF across various functions, unquote. If the capacity to regulate firearms industry is reduced by 40%, if you are losing 186 ATF law enforcement agents on top of that, it is clear the direction you are headed with this budget. And that's what it is, isn't it? The proposal will weaken our ability to stop gun trafficking, and it will greatly reduce ATF support for state and local law enforcement that helps them prevent and solve violent crimes. It's a bad proposal.
Do you want to hear my answer in 3 seconds? You mentioned regulatory functions. We will not be having ATF agents go to the doors of gun owners in the middle of the night asking them about their guns, period. They will be out on the streets with DEA, guns and
How
drugs
many
go
are
together.
gone?
We are not, it will be attrition. We are not firing agents. They
are-
will be working
how
with
many have
DEA.
taken attrition?
Can I tell you that they all want to be on the streets? They want to be doing their jobs. They want to be
But you're getting them
seizing
off the
guns.
streets.
They
You're
want
getting
to.
them
We're
off the
putting
streets.
them on the streets. They want to be working with DEA.
You are getting them off the
We will be
streets. There's no
efficient.
clear. And Mr.
We will
Chairman,
be
I yield back my
efficient.
time.
What we just watched was not simply a heated back and forth between Attorney General Pam Bondi and Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. It was a clash over one of the most fundamental responsibilities of government, keeping communities safe from illegal guns and deadly drugs. DeLauro's central point was straightforward. You cannot claim to fight crime while simultaneously gutting the very agencies tasked with doing that work. A 26% cut to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives (ATF) would not be a minor trim. It would be a dramatic blow to the agency's capacity to track firearms, investigate trafficking networks, and assist state and local law enforcement. Numbers don't lie. As DeLauro read directly from the budget proposal itself, ATF would lose more than 500 industry investigators, nearly 200 special agents, and hundreds of support staff. That amounts to a nearly 40% reduction in the agency's ability to regulate the gun industry. Bondi's defense was to frame the cuts as reorganization, suggesting ATF would merge more closely with the DEA because guns and drugs go together. On the surface, that may sound efficient. But as DeLauro pointed out, if you cut both agencies' budgets, the merger does not create strength. It creates weakness on two fronts. Fewer resources mean fewer investigations, fewer inspections, and fewer prosecutions of the very criminals flooding communities with fentanyl and firearms. The administration's budget simultaneously slashes high-intensity drug trafficking programs and organized crime task forces. Democrats see this not as efficiency, but as negligence dressed up as reform. The human dimension here is critical. Illegal firearms trafficking and fentanyl smuggling are not abstract policy problems. They are daily realities fueling violent crime, overdoses, and shattered families across America. ATF agents and investigators are on the front lines, tracing guns used in murders, shutting down trafficking pipelines, and ensuring that explosives don't end up in the wrong hands. Stripping them of nearly half their regulatory capacity means leaving more guns untracked, more traffickers unchallenged, and more communities vulnerable. DeLauro pressed for a simple answer. How many officers and investigators would be lost? Bondi evaded, repeatedly circling back to rhetoric about not targeting legal gun owners. That was never DeLauro's question. Democrats argue this is part of the broader Republican pattern. Avoid hard numbers, shift the narrative to political talking points, and downplay the consequences of cuts that will directly affect public safety. DeLauro's insistence on reading from the department's own budget summary made the reality plain. The numbers exist, the consequences are clear, and the evasions are transparent. What this exchange reveals is a stark contrast in governing philosophies. Democrats, like DeLauro, insist on confronting crime with resources, oversight, and accountability. They believe in investing in law enforcement's capacity to do its job effectively. Republicans, under Trump's leadership, propose deep cuts while spinning them as efficiency moves, even if they leave agencies crippled and unable to meet their core mission. This is why DeLauro's words resonate beyond the committee room. It's not just about budgets and attrition charts. It's about whether our federal government will give law enforcement the tools they need to stop dangerous traffickers, or whether ideological cuts will leave communities exposed. For Democrats, the evidence is undeniable. Weakening ATF weakens America's fight against illegal guns, and weakening DEA undermines the battle against fentanyl. Together, those cuts put lives at risk. The broader lesson is this: budgets are moral documents. They reflect priorities. When the administration proposes slashing funds for gun and drug enforcement, it sends a signal about whose safety matters and whose does not. Democrats argue that public safety should never be sacrificed at the altar of political ideology. So here's the takeaway. Pay attention not just to the fiery words exchanged, but to the numbers in the budget. Ask who benefits when ATF loses nearly half its regulatory power. Ask what happens when drug task forces are gutted in the middle of an overdose crisis. And most importantly, demand accountability from leaders who claim to keep America safe while quietly undermining the very agencies designed to do so. Because this isn't just about Bondi versus DeLauro. It's about whether we as a nation will take seriously the epidemic of gun violence and drug trafficking, or whether we allow political theater to mask decisions that put our communities in greater danger.